What happens when a high powered attorney trades the boardroom for a bold new chapter? In today's episode, Suzanne Daniels shares how she went from corporate success to crafting a life of purpose, legacy, and unapologetic authenticity. If you've ever wondered whether it's too late to start over, this conversation is your sign that it's not. So get ready for an interview filled with powerful takeaways. You're listening to This Woman Can. I'm your host, Janice Sutherland, where I help mature professional Black women take charge of their careers and lives to create a future on their terms. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to this week's edition of This Woman Can. I am your host, Janice Sutherland, career and life strategist for the mature Black woman. Now, in the interviews, I love interviewing. I love meeting the women I meet on the interviews. And the whole idea of doing these interviews is to share the journeys and stories of women who maybe have done something different to you, who may be treading newer fields to you, and for you to get some inspiration from their journeys. And I think you're going to get just that with my guest this week. Now, Suzanne Daniels is an international attorney with 30 years of experience, originally from South Africa, now based in Los Angeles. She's the founder of the Rest in Peace Now framework, which empowers women, professionals, and business owners to secure their legacies while they're still living boldly. Suzanne believes that true financial freedom comes from protecting your assets today so you can truly rest in peace now. Her journey includes moving across countries, supporting her blind daughter, and tragically the loss of her partner. And through it all, she's redefined life and business, driven by resilience and a commitment to help others. Suzanne, welcome to This Woman Can.
Thank you, Janice. Listening to you describe me is like, ooh.
It's always the way. We're never quite sure, is that really me? They're talking about me, but yes, it's you. Yes, it's you. So, Suzanne, you've had an interesting journey. So, yeah, obviously, I want to tell us a little bit more. I just gave a very brief overview of your journey itself. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and where you got to where you are today?
Okay, let me start with, as you said, I'm from South Africa. I was born in the wonderful city of Cape Town, so I grew up in apartheid South Africa. I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was about 4 years old. Don't ask me why. It just came, but I think it was because of the circumstances. So I've known discrimination from a very early age because of my color of my skin, and then obviously because of my gender. Because then I was told, no, girls can't do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then so I resonate very well with This Woman Can, because I was then, I'm going to show you.
Fantastic.
Um, I actually graduated top of my class, which was unheard of in that time. I actually made the magazines because first Black woman to do this, all of that. Um, And I spent about 30 years in law. I can't believe that I have 30 years of experience. I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
ancient then. Um, and during that time, I've worked in government, I've advised states, I've also done businesses. I've got a wide range of experience. And then I became a mom.
Okay.
Um, And that was a culture shock on many levels because the high-flying corporate person. And then my daughter was born blind, and that made me look at life slightly differently. Um, and then another curveball, she wanted to be an actress. And I was like, no, you need to be a lawyer. And she was like, no. And I went to see her perform. And she was so convincing as the character. So I thought, okay, this is something that she needs to pursue. And since she's been 8, she's been doing drama and all of that, singing, dancing, all the performing things. And actually, that's how we landed up in Los Angeles.
Wow.
She was chosen to do a young actors camp in 2016, and the rest is history.
Wow. So
within
she changed your life in more ways than one.
a very seismic shift. And obviously that meant I needed to look at my career differently along the
Hmm.
way. So I think, that's a little bit about how I got from South
Yeah.
Africa to Los
Yeah.
Angeles. And
Okay.
I always say, like, from corporate lawyer to Hollywood mom.
Yes.
And also trying to find, my way in the world. Because one thing I did learn along the way is while you support your child's dreams, you actually mustn't give up on yourself.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I was about to ask about that because you see sometimes these programs, reality programs like Dance Moms or whatever it is, and I often wonder about, I is this your dream living through the child, or is this you giving up your dream to allow the child to live theirs?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it was a bit of a compromise because certainly I did not see my life growing up in Cape Town that I'd be in Hollywood,
Yeah,
actually doing what I'm doing. However, my child does have special needs, so that added another layer of sort of
yeah,
complexity
yeah.
and a little made the decision easier in some respects. If I wanted to support her, I needed to be with her.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but what it did do is also it was interesting because it made me look at what do I really want.
Mm, mm,
Instead of following the traditional corporate ladder,
yeah,
um, and I got to the top of my game, but so where next?
yes,
I didn't want to be CEO of the company.
yeah.
So would I stay in that job until I retired? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah,
All the
yeah.
things you talk about on your show.
Yes, yes.
Um, I had to face that reality, and sometimes I always tell her I actually didn't think that far ahead that I would be here because I was actually just becoming a drone. So
Yeah, yeah.
in many ways, the shift actually, sort of took me out of my comfort zone.
Mm, mm, mm. So you made that shift from the successful corporate attorney lawyer to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So and I always say because I did a similar I was in my 50s when I did my shift from corporate CEO through to because I did go down the CEO route and then shifted to entrepreneurship. So for you, and I know you have all the comforts and you have the security of that in the background. But what do you think, Suzanne, was the biggest transition for you in biggest challenge, I say, in that transition?
I think the biggest challenge was that you now had to learn everything. You
Mm,
know, I had a staff of 20 doing what I needed to do. So
yeah.
if I needed marketing, I'd go to the marketing department.
Mm,
If
mm.
I needed my IT, I'd go to the IT department. I think the biggest shock was realizing the IT department was me. I was like, oh Lord, oh my goodness, I need to figure this out now.
Yeah,
Um, and while one knew the high level, requirements and implementation, we didn't always know what happened in the nuts and bolts. And I
yeah.
think that was the bit of the shift. I think in terms of accountability, those were sort of standard.
Mm.
Um, but also breaking the corporate mindset.
Yes, yeah,
I think that was the hardest because for me it was I need to build. I was trying to take the corporate, well, I think I was trying in the initial phase was trying to corporatize myself.
yes, yeah.
As
I
like
recognize it.
I was gonna build like Suzanne Daniels Incorporated or
Yeah,
some it wasn't gonna be me, it was gonna be like this institution. And
yeah.
I realized that that's actually just replicating what I'd
Mm,
done. You know,
mm.
that's not really what I want to do. And that took some serious introspection. I
Mm.
think it's been about 6 years, and I think I've only finally sort of evolved into me, more of
Yeah,
me in my business.
yeah,
Um, I those first few years were painful because I tried to stick to as a life coach for women in business because I wanted to combine my corporate experience with, my life experience. And that was pretty good, but I wasn't, because I was wanting to corporatize, I
yeah,
wasn't feeling so connected to what I
yeah,
was doing.
yeah.
And I think that sort of evolved.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm smiling. And if you listen to the podcast, you won't see me smile. If you're watching this on video, you'll know I'm smiling because I hear so many of the points that Susanna has raised that I found myself when I was making that transition. Because for me, it was measuring my success as if I was in the corporate world and then
Yes.
beating myself up because I wasn't getting the level of results I would have got in the corporate world. And as you said, you had a big team behind you. You had the marketing department, the IT department, you had the accountants, and all of a sudden, all that is rolled up into you, and then you're wondering, well, why I'm not getting those results. And the other thing, the transition I had to change for me was changing my measures of success.
Yes.
Because if I wanted, I had to tell myself, if I wanted that, if that's success I wanted, I could have stayed where I was.
That's
So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So let me just say, so Susanna, how I know what my measures were, my revised, my new entrepreneur measures were, but how did you remeasure? How did you measure success now in this different stage of life?
I must tell you, it's still very hard to measure the success because when I'm under stress, I default back to the corporate KPIs. So it's an ongoing battle. I don't know about the listeners, but just be reassured, it's an ongoing battle. It won't leave you because I did not realize how indoctrinated I was.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
actually becomes part of your DNA. So you
Mm,
want those
mm,
things. For me, a successful day now is spending time with my daughter,
yeah,
helping her in her career,
yeah.
being able to do lunch, breakfast,
Mm,
dinner
mm,
across the table with her.
yeah,
The things that I never did before.
yeah.
Obviously, meeting with clients because the bills still need to be paid. Um,
Yes, yes.
but also working on my business, so like doing these kinds of things, creating awareness,
Yeah,
but generally creating a life that is a little simpler,
yeah.
and less stress free. I still have the corporate mindset of being at my desk at 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
which is something I'm battling with at the moment. Um, is really getting out of that mindset because I then feel guilty
Yeah,
if I've not been at my desk from 8 to 5.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
my struggle at the moment.
Yeah. So I remember it well, but I'm so glad I'm no longer in that now. I got rid of that. But I think what I would say to you and anybody listening who feels who resonates with you what you've just said is don't beat yourself up. As you
Mm,
said, you spent over 30 years in this environment and having this habit and creating this habit. And that's hard to break. It's not going to break overnight. So we have to give ourselves what's what I'm looking for? We have to have a little
Grace.
compassion.
Yeah.
Look,
I I I do, and that's sort of grad that I've learned. So my obviously from I've set financial targets.
mm,
First I was hell bent on replacing my corporate income.
yeah,
And then I realized that's like an artificial um, milestone because
yeah.
that's based on a whole corporate existence that is
Mm,
no longer
mm,
there.
yes,
And
yes,
then started getting more realistic about what it is so that I don't beat myself up, you know. Um, and yes, it's taken me longer to get to the equivalent, but a lot happier. I mean, most of the remarks that I get now is, and quite frankly, if I look at my photos from those years,
Mm.
I'm a different person. I look
Yeah,
happier.
yeah,
I look
yeah.
younger now, if that's possible. Like,
Yeah, it's the stress coming, coming out and just removing itself. That's what it does. That's exactly what
so,
it
and
does.
there's more of me. So I think those are the success factors that
Yeah,
I now use, that
fantastic.
I actually sleep soundly at night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have any of the health issues that I've had before.
Mm, mm,
So
mm.
those are the kinds of markers if ladies feel, if women feel beaten up or something, just look at those kinds of
Yeah,
things and compare.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
much
Thanks for
better.
sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. So, Suzanne, how is your identity as a Black woman, as a South African Black woman, shaped your journey, especially in midlife?
In midlife, it's actually become sort of not such an issue. I
Okay.
have this, I have the strange, I sort of have the strange experience right now. I'm of mixed race,
Mhm.
so and I've kind of gotten lighter as I got older. My skin tone has gotten lighter, so that's kind of weird. But I think it's menopause, ladies. Just putting it out there. Um, so I get mistaken for being Hispanic
Okay.
in in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have to say, no, I'm South African. So I've kind of adopted the identity of a South African living in an American town.
Okay.
Because I actually when I saw your podcast, I thought, oh, that's interesting because that's what I was grappling with. What is my identity now? You know,
Right.
because in South Africa it was very much defined by the color of my skin.
Yes.
Um, yeah, it's not so much the color of my skin, because Los Angeles is extremely diverse. So
Mm,
it really doesn't, it's not well, in where I live, it's not as prevalent just now.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's a different kind of prejudice.
Mm,
Um, I
mm,
do find it sometimes because, if people look at me, they would have a certain, you could see it.
yeah.
The moment I open my mouth, it's a different, it's a different issue because then they think, it's a British accent.
I think he's British.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. My
You know,
British accent hasn't been mistaken for anything but British.
yes, I always say South Africa is a former English colony, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have, well, we do speak better English,
Mm,
but it's those subtle differences, you
right.
know.
Right.
So I've had sort of to deal with all sorts of prejudices.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm not always sure if it's linked to the being black,
Mm,
um, because they're not quite sure where to place me.
right. Right.
So I think
Right.
that's even more insidious.
Mm,
Um, and I think if I hadn't been used to the kinds of different kinds of prejudices, class,
mm,
race, it would be difficult to navigate. Now I kind of sort of shrug it off.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but in certain circles, it does become more prevalent.
Right.
Um, I was quite amused. I went to a conference and all the black people sat together and all the white people sat
Yeah.
together. I had not seen that since South Africa.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Trust me, it still happens.
And I was like, okay, so this is the real
Yeah.
world, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this is the real world. So it's been a range of things. I'm at least glad that I can navigate it more sensitively now.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um, but it does take a bit of, I think, astuteness,
Right. Right.
um, and also just staking your claim.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
like that. Staking
yeah.
your claim. I like that.
And we've just come from, I mean, Kendrick Lamar did an explosive
Yes, I watched it. Yes.
performance
Yes, I
performance at the
watched it.
Super Bowl. I was like, oh my, that's like so universal. And
Mm,
so it's Black History Month here,
yeah.
and it just brings to light, and I'm like, oh, I know what this is like. I know what this is like.
Mm,
So
mm,
um we can relate. It's
yeah.
just, I think and I'm glad that people are speaking about it because it's something that actually gets sort of lost in the diversity
Mm,
of a country like this. Or
mm, mm.
and because I live in a very diverse city anyway, we don't seem to see it that much or
Right,
experience it. But if you
right.
go to other parts of the country, you obviously would see it more
Yeah, yeah.
more polarized, which is like any other place.
Yeah, and I think, I think that's kind of probably universal. I mean, I born and grown in the UK, but I live in the Caribbean now.
Mhm,
So, and I noticed the difference. I grew up with that, with the lingering, the race. That was my world. So even though Kendrick's in the US and I watched it, I could still relate to what's
mhm,
happening in the UK. Though now I live in a country that everybody pretty much looks like me. It's a whole different ball game again. It's a much different feeling. So yeah, it like you say, you just kind of adapt accordingly. So, Suzanne, before we talk about rest in peace now, I want to have a question. I think that probably leads into that for you. And the question I have is, what legacy are you hoping to leave both personally and professionally?
Personally, it's about being true to yourself
Yeah.
and authenticity. I've been very big on authenticity and empowering women, and I actually was, going through my Facebook feed
Mm,
since 2009, and that's been the one consistent message that I've always spoken about is women, you need to empower yourselves. You
yeah.
need to you need to make sure. So I think that's a big legacy for me is to make sure that
Mm,
because I rose from a typical middle class family to the top of my game, which was
yeah.
um, unheard of in my era because they did not expect a black woman to do
Yeah.
that in a commercial environment. So everybody
Mm,
told me I was crazy and that I should study family law and divorce law. And I was like, no, I want to do commercial law. And they were like,
mm,
but you're a girl, instead of like, but you are black and there are no black
mm,
business people. But I was like, I'm going to do this.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So I think it was about that. And for my daughter, and personally, it's be the best that you can be.
Right.
Um, and I think because the challenge was when I had told her you can be anything that you can be, and she turned around and said to me, Mom, I'd like to be an actress. I was like, oh, Suzanne. And I said, my first reaction was, no, you need to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, Suzanne, put your money where your mouth is.
Mm,
So it's been a
mm,
big, I've had those challenges. So that's my personal and professional legacy is,
yeah.
empowerment, authenticity, and actually do as you say.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think? You have a daughter, and it's a younger generation. So what do you think that younger women can learn from women who are navigating reinvention later in life?
It's never too late,
Mm,
you know, it's never
mm,
too late. And look at your circumstances, you can rise above it.
yeah.
With determination, it's never too late. And don't think any idea is um, wrong. Because my idea of failure has also changed
Mm.
since I
Tell me about
left.
that.
Well, when you in the corporate world, success looks like designer clothes, car,
Yes. Yeah.
those kinds of things. I've had to tweak my business so many times because
Yeah.
ideas didn't work. And
Yeah.
but in the early days, I felt, oh, what a failure.
Mm,
It would take me months to get back on track. And now I'm like, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work?
Yes. Yeah.
What can I learn from it?
Yeah.
And now I'm doing something and it's evolved. It's actually
Mm,
got me where I am. So I think that's important, for the younger
yeah.
generation. They are
Yeah.
not, also, they are much more open to trying new things than what
Yeah.
we were.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you talked about, if I may, you talked about some tragedy later in life and things, and that's occurred for you. So, how have your life experiences shaped the way you approach this stage of your career and life?
Uh, it's been also to value what I
Mm,
do more, not just in monetary terms, but to
mm,
look at how can I add that experience into what I do. I think
mm,
um before the tragedy, it was more this is a job and I'm just doing it, or this is an area of law that I'm doing
mm,
and it's necessary. So while I had the empathy, I kind of got to the stage where it was mechanical, and I didn't want it to be mechanical.
yeah,
Um, because it's really dealing with, I mean, I deal with two very controversial areas of life, death and money, and
yeah, yeah,
so you need to have some empathy. But I felt that because I'd worked out how to do it,
mm,
I was getting very lawyery
yeah,
and not human. And that had to shift.
right,
So
right.
I think it was sort of re-looking at what was I doing
Mm,
that, because I didn't want to create a job for myself.
yeah,
I actually still want to enjoy what I'm doing.
yes, yeah, yeah. It's more like
No.
a more of a vocation. That's what I'm looking for. The word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
So,
because for me it was more about impact
yeah,
always.
yeah.
I think it's Oprah who said, "Do what you love, and the money will come."
Hmm.
And
So
I
they say.
And yeah, I think Oprah, well, it's a credit to Oprah, but I wanted to tell Oprah my grandmother told me that.
So Suzanne, is that what led to Rest in Peace now? Or tell us a little bit more about that, what you do for work.
Um, it was partly my partner's sudden passing, but
Yeah,
it made me look at how I was working. I mean, as an estate planning attorney, um, w- make no mistake, when my partner passed away tragically, I thought we had everything figured out.
yeah.
And we actually didn't. The one thing we did not think about is one of us dying before the other.
Wow.
You know, we had all the other risk management. I mean, you're dealing with like two MBA graduates,
Yeah, yeah,
professionals.
yeah,
So we had all the risk management plans in place. But the one thing, when I reflected on it, the one thing that we did not think about was one of us passing before the other. That was just not in
yeah.
our way. And that made me look at how many other women are in
Mm,
that position.
mm.
Because statistically, women outlive men,
Yes, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it made me take a step back, um, and look at all the people that I've served in the last
Mm,
3 years. In the past 3 years, look at the women in particular. And the trends were women weren't looking after themselves. They either were parents, then once the children left, they were either looking after a husband, or a husband died, divorce, or they became caregivers as well of
yeah,
their
yeah,
parents. So
yeah,
and then the resounding thing was, I didn't think about that when they talked to me about who takes your place if something should
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
What happens if your partner passes away? Because,
yeah,
obviously, because of my own experience, I mean, it had a financial impact on me when he
yeah,
passed away. I suddenly went from a 50% contributor to a 150%
yeah,
contributor.
yeah, yeah.
And we weren't as prepared as we thought for that kind
Yeah.
of stepping.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
really informed how I looked at it. And then I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, I just, I'm so tired of speaking about death and dying. I'm just like, that should not be the focus of my conversation. I said, I scare 99% of my clients. I
Mm.
don't want them to be terrified of speaking to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, why? What do you talk about? I'm talking about what happens to assets when they die. But my philosophy is look after them now and live your best life so that when you leave, they, you okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about who's going to look after Janice or who's going to do this because
Mm.
you've made but that means you live now. You don't
Mm.
you don't have to, because most people I think will like focus so much on, okay, this house goes to
Yeah.
this child. I actually asked one mom. She wanted to leave the house to her daughter. Daughter hasn't been living at home for the last 15 years. So I'm like, what makes you think your daughter wants your house?
Yeah.
And she says, no, but it's like a house. I said, and why do you want to leave it to her? So will she be able to afford to keep it?
Mm.
And the lady says, I don't know. So I said,
Yeah.
why do you want to leave it? So she said, no, it's just I'm attached to the house. We work so hard. I said, you know what? That's you.
Yeah.
Why didn't you sell the house? Go on the cruise that you've always wanted to, because this woman has been working for 33 years and has never been
Yeah.
on a proper holiday. I said, go on the cruise,
Yeah.
downsize, invest the money, live your best life, and whatever's
Mm.
left, because your daughter's not interested in this house. You cannot honestly tell me that she wants the house
Yeah. Yeah. It's
unless
true.
you've had. So that sort of started me having different kinds of conversations. And when I spoke to my friend, he said to me, so what you're doing is creating like rest in peace now. You're giving meaning to those words. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Makes
Um,
sense.
and then I tested it with a few people because I'm like, it sounds better than saying I'm an estate planning attorney.
Yeah.
Because, obviously the guards go up when people do that.
Yeah.
So I find it much easier. I then developed it a little bit more. I started focusing more on women because I'm over
Yeah. Niching
50.
down. Yeah.
I've also had to re-look at my own life. I think a shocker for me is when I turned 55, my financial advisor sat me down and said, well, now you got to start thinking about retirement. I was like, okay. Okay, so we had to do that, and then I realized that these are the kinds of milestones that women particularly
Yeah.
don't think about. It's
Yeah.
always left to someone else. Now, I
Yeah.
had a very good financial advisor who has passed away a couple of years ago, but he made me invest in my 20s,
Right.
and I didn't change that. But my plan didn't involve moving across the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were some tweaks that I had to make. And that also made me realize that this is what you tell your clients, Suzanne. Look
So.
at life
Mm.
changes. And
Mm.
then, yeah, that's how it developed. And now I do that for people.
So thanks for sharing that, Suzanne. I take away what you said, that it's really important for us to, as you said, focus on the now, because we spend so much being women, preparing and making sure everything's okay for everyone else, and neglecting ourselves at the same time. And like you said, it's definitely given me food for thought.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to achieve with the Rest in Peace Now framework, is to actually, take women through a process where they go. I often start my my consultations with, what are your goals?
Yeah. Mm.
What does life look like for you?
Yeah.
Irrespective.
Yeah.
And some of them actually don't know. And then,
Mm,
because we've been taking care of so many people.
yeah, yeah,
I actually
absolutely.
had one client, because my coach did it to me, write down how many roles do they play in their life. It was a very
Mm,
eye-opening exercise for me,
yeah, yeah.
because I had about 20 or 30.
Mm,
And then I say, what would it cost to replace these?
yes, yeah, yeah.
You know, so is your family prepared for that? Are you prepared for that?
Mm,
Because people always think like women in caregiver positions think like, I always ask, what would happen if something happened to you?
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
my brother
Yeah,
will take care of it. I'm sure they will. Is
yeah,
it, have you had the
yeah,
conversation?
yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, no.
yeah.
Does your brother have a wife and children? You know?
Mm, mm,
And then I say, that's actually estate planning. Do you know that?
mm.
And they go, I didn't think about it like that. So I
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
because you're just thinking who's going to get the D set.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No
Um,
problem.
and we don't think about the actual business of living.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I have to sort of we need to have those conversations as women.
Mm, mm,
Because
mm.
while we take care of other people, we don't really take care of ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so
yeah,
that's where it stemmed from. And I think, obviously from my own experience, and also I always speak to my daughter about, who's going to take care of her if I'm not
yeah,
around. And she goes, no,
yeah.
you're going to live to 115.
Oh,
I'm like,
and you. Maybe I don't want to.
I said, but
Oh, dear.
and then that's exactly the mindset that we have
Yeah,
to sort of
yeah,
deal with because
yeah.
we often think that, key people in our
Mm,
lives would be around
mm,
forever. We
mm,
we don't want to
mm.
think about death and dying.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Definitely food for thought. So coming down to our last couple of questions now, Suzanne, probably a little bit of fun one. What myths about aging or midlife have you busted for yourself?
um, that I'd be old and wrinkled at 55. I
Yeah,
mean, I can't believe what I look like at 55
yeah,
compared to what I had in mind.
yeah,
And that I go to the gym. I'm actually contemplating doing a boxing class, because my fitness has improved.
mm, mm,
And
mm.
I'm going to do it with the Spider-Man, the guy who did the Spider-Man stunts.
Oh, right, okay, okay,
So I'm kind of
okay.
excited. Uh,
Geeking out on that, aren't you? And and it's true what you said though, because I don't know what it is about our particular generation. I turned 60 last year, and I'm like, there is no way, no way. I know I'm aging, but I don't feel old. I don't feel old,
yes, because
so
I think it's that. I mean, also just obviously, when I get out of bed in the morning, my joints remind me how old I
yes, yeah,
am.
yeah, they do. I won't discount that.
But, but that doesn't mean that I am old.
Yeah,
I take
yeah,
I
yeah,
take I take good care of myself.
yeah.
Um, I think there's so much opportunity now. Um, I think when we were growing up, I don't know about you, Janice, in the UK, but in South Africa, I was always, if you were 55 and over, you were old.
Old. Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
here in the US, I do get some senior discounts because I turned
Oh, I
55.
take it. Yes. Oh, I take advantage of them. I ask my age privilege. Where's my age privilege discount?
So I take advantage of that, but people always ask me to show my ID because
Yeah.
they don't, so I get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, yeah, for me, age is a number to respect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. That's nice. That's nice. So my last interviewee question. If you could describe this stage of life in one word, Suzanne, what would it be and why?
Um, Content.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a lot more content with where I'm at and as a person. It's not that agitation to prove anything to
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's not being smug, it's being content.
Nice. Yeah. That's a nice word. That's a nice word. And that was my last official question. So if people want to know, can connect with you or get to know more about what you do, Suzanne, how can they do that?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
I will send you a link. I also have a workbook that I've put together for women, so I will give you the link to that. You're welcome to download. It has my contact details in it. Um, and I do have complimentary consultations so that
Okay.
we can, at least assess where you are at and give
Yeah.
you a plan. Because
Fantastic.
before you can do anything, you need to actually know where you're going.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. Very, very true. And I'll be sure to put all the links in the show notes. If you listen to this or watching this, you'll be able to get the links to Suzanne's resources via the notes. So that was my last question, Suzanne. Thank you so much for being patient with me today and answering my questions and really informing myself and the audience. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. It was really wonderful sharing my experiences with you and your audience.
Thank you. Well, if Suzanne didn't just pass you the mic to your own life, I don't know who will. Her story was so motivation, so inspiring, and it's proof that power, purpose, and reinvention doesn't come with a deadline. Whether you're navigating motherhood, career pivots, or just a midlife identity shift, this is your permission slip to choose you. Because your legacy isn't just what people say after you're gone. It's how boldly you're willing to show up right now. So go ahead and ask yourself the question Suzanne left us with. What does life look like for you? Such a powerful question. And if the answer makes you nervous, that just means you're on the right track. I always say that it has to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable to get you moving. So until next time, stay fabulous, stay fearless, and always remember, if I can, you can. This woman can. Take care until next time. Thanks for listening. If you got something from this week's episode, please let me know. Better yet, share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone you know who can benefit from this message. Don't forget to subscribe or write a review and connect with me at my website, janicesutherland.com, where you can also subscribe to the This Woman Can newsletter or connect with me on LinkedIn. Remember, you have the wisdom, resilience, authenticity, and power to create a life on your terms. And if I can, you can, this woman can. Take care until next time.